What's good everyone, and welcome back to Chefkoch, your go-to channel for exploring the meaning, history and culture behind rap music, one story at a time. Leave a like and a sub if you enjoy content like this, and now sit back and enjoy today's video in which we're going to talk about the current revival of my favorite hip-hop subgenre, cloud rap. For those who are not familiar with it, cloud rap is characterized by a distinct form of ethereal and dreamy production, and sonically the genre is mostly inspired by ambient, chillwave, trap and witch house. That's why you might feel like you're sitting on a cloud floating to the sky while listening to cloud rap. And if you want to learn more about the roots and the evolution of the subgenre, for sure check out my detailed cloud rap documentary. But after its initial rise to global fame around the mid-2010s, the mainstream's interest for the genre stagnated and cloud rap returned to the underground in the late 2010s. That's why the genre seemed dormant or even dead to most rap listeners in recent years. However, there always has been a small community which kept cloud rap alive, and their work seemed to have paid off, because cloud rap currently is making a real resurgence. But what are the reasons for this phenomenon? Well, first of all, the kids that listened to cloud rap back in its prime already grew up to be respected musicians themselves. And since cloud rap was a big source of influence for many contemporary rappers, it makes sense that they want to pay homage to the genre today. Next to that, cloud rap's resurgence has to be driven by collective nostalgia and the use of nostalgia through music. The early 2010s internet culture, aesthetics and music are more relevant than ever in 2025 because it reminds people of simpler and carefree times in their lives. And cloud rap for sure was a part of this culture. That's why we can see the genre popping up again. There's a real demand for it. A proof for that, for example, would be the current resurgence of cloud rap pioneer Lil B. I currently see a real rise in the bass god's popularity again. He has 2 million monthly listeners on Spotify and he even was featured on the recent Justin Bieber project. So it's fair to say that Lil B's music arrived in the mainstream in 2025 and people finally seem to acknowledge his gigantic influence on contemporary rap. In addition, ICEY Rocky's cloud rap music is probably more popular than ever before, which is proven by the massive success of the I'm God X Demons mashup, and by a significant increase in streams for cloud rap classics like LVL or Fashion Killer. Now in my opinion, despite its initial success, sonically cloud rap is still a very interesting genre that didn't reach its full potential yet, so a successful resurgence is very much possible. That's why I now want to talk about some artists who partake in the survival movement, starting off with Smoke Dope 2016. Smoke Dope has been making cloud rap influenced songs since 2022, most notably on the track I'm Not God But I Wish I Was, which uses the same sample as LVL by ICEY Rocky, produced by cloud rap legend Clams Casino. And interestingly enough, Smoke Dope's track East Bay samples another cloud rap song, Is That the Best You Can Do by Bones, so cloud rap really is a big source of influence on him. And I got to say, with Bartesian Water, Lil Fitted Cap and UAV, Smoke Dope for sure has some of the best cloud rap producers in the scene right now, and his records are some of the most creative in the cloud rap resurgence scene. So if you want to get into his discography, check out his project 2016 with hits like Thrill. And next to that, the albums The Come Up and The Peak, as well as his Fairfield side project Go Hard. I have been a fan of Smoke Dope for a minute already, but I'm really excited for his future releases. Moving on, I want to talk about Dead Right. He gained traction with his cloud rap records together with his go-to producer Ghoul Mob, like with Curb in My Cup from 2022. Now Dead Right has been a consistent figure in the cloud rap resurgence scene ever since, and my favorite records by him include the albums Death of Oxy and Dead Wavy. And what I like most about his songs is that Dead Right is heavily influenced by the early 2010s rap generation with artists like Lil B, Max B or Space Ghost Perp, but he still manages to bring his own modern twist to the OG cloud rap movement, making his records stand out from the rest of the scene. And as the next modern cloud rap artist, we have the newcomer Cash Up Sean. He describes himself as an artist who you listen to when you're on a hike to the forest blowing on some good strong or when you need to find peace of mind, and honestly that describes his music pretty well. Cash Up Sean is still under the radar for most cloud rap fans, but he really makes great music. Most of his records are self-produced, but he also works with producer Christ regularly. Therefore I would recommend everyone to check out his tapes Nature Blunts and Tripset 99. Honestly, these records will instantly take you back to 2014. In addition, I want to mention another cloud rap newcomer, Nokia Angel. He gained traction in 2024 for having a more emotional and icy approach to cloud rap with extravagant production, which is visible on his EP Born Angel and his new album In Haze. Especially the song Stay Cold goes hard. And the fact that Nokia Angel produces, mixes and masters most of his own songs makes him a talented and versatile figure in the cloud rap resurgence movement. Moving on, I also want to talk about Until Japan. He's an uprising rapper who gained traction for his ambient trap records, but he also worked with Clams Casino on the song Kiss and Tell in 2023. And on here, Until Japan blends elements of cloud rap into his more trap influenced production, thereby leading into a more experimental sound. Other than that, we have Mirar, maybe the most talented woman the cloud rap scene currently has to offer. She went viral this year with Love Letters to Mary Jane, but she also has other great cloud rap influenced records like Arizona Tears, Get Dressed, I Love Mirar, Perky Poppins or Pretty and Handsome. Her songs have a very nostalgic and nonchalant feel to them, and I had to include her in the video because we definitely need more women in the scene. But another artist who I want to highlight has to be Ecstasy Blast. He clearly is inspired by Black Cray and gained some traction in 2023 with his song Heaven Gates. But he also has other cloud rap influenced tracks like Can't Feel, Cinderella or Mamacita. And especially the instrumentals with violin samples go hard. And as further artists from the cloud rap revival scene, I like to mention Star 67, To Heaven, Seven Nights, Cupid's Oppression, Kush Baby Keys, Levi Carter, Mixed Matches, Red 40, Ron Shack and Sniper 2004. And coming back to the producers, I also want to mention Surf Gang, especially Evil Gianni for his cloud rap influenced production, which is visible on hits like Making the Band by Earl Sweatshirt. Now that song goes incredibly hard, and the fact that Earl was interested in hopping on a cloud rap beat proves that the genre is coming back stronger than ever. Next to that there's Prod with Flavor, a producer who makes really talented cloud rap remixes of popular rap songs and who went viral on social media multiple times already. So if you want to know how Laserdisc 700 sounds under a cloud rap beat, check out Prod with Flavor. With that, we covered all the US artists I wanted to mention in this video. However, the cloud rap resurgence scene doesn't limit itself to North America. Therefore, we also have quite a few international movements that deserve a mention. For example, there's Yabujin from Lithuania, who blends cloud rap with a lot of other genres in his music like hardstyle or hex, and his music is incredibly versatile and unique. Generally, there's nobody else that makes music like him. Yabujin is completely in his own lane. Just check out his EP Baroque and you will understand what I mean. But sadly, he stopped releasing songs in 2022, so it appears that the Yabujin era is history. But if you move on to Sweden, we can witness another interesting artist popping off by the name of Rooster, who most of you know by Young God, the legendary Drang Gang and Sad Boys producer who is responsible for hits like Jinsen Strip 2002 and Kyoto. Now Rooster is his cloud rap influenced side project which became active in 2022 with his great EP titled Rooster Debut. And recently he made a comeback with his album Rooster Slipped from August 2025, which is amazing as well. So if you like Drang Gang, definitely check out Rooster. And now let's talk about another fascinating movement, the UK cloud rap scene. The United Kingdom actually has one of the most creative underground scenes globally, and a lot of their artists are heavily influenced by cloud rap. Most notably, I want to mention Fake Mink, who is gaining a lot of traction in 2025 with his versatile records and DIY production. His music feels like the bridge between cloud rap's past and present, which is especially visible on songs like Just Kitten, Kill Everything, Maka with Echo 2K, Rage Bait or Snow White. And what I like a lot about Fake Mink is that he really likes to experiment with his instrumentals and his vocals. And what sets him apart from other artists is his ability to channel nostalgia without being confined by it. And another promising UK artist I want to mention has to be Fang. He blew up earlier this year just after Fake Mink, and Fang has a very simplistic and carefree approach to rap music. His records sound very nostalgic and reminiscent of the early A$AP Rocky and Main Attractions cloud rap era, especially visible on Princess or Who Do You Wanna Be. And if you still want more from the UK cloud rap scene, other rappers that partake in the resurgence include London Actress, NMWAX, Sam Sultan, Snower and Zuko vs. The World. Now, as further international movements, I want to highlight Eydruki from France, at least his older records, Death Soldier from Mongolia, his older records were very Jabush influenced. Then we have Felgi53 from Germany, Jack Zebra from China, Castratia from Latvia, I probably butchered his name, Kroka Koka from Austria, and Spyromy from Sweden. So as you can see, the cloud rap revival really is a global phenomenon, which proves that the initial impact of the subgenre was huge. We of course owe the European revival scenes mostly due to the success and influence of the Duran Gang and Sad Boys movement, because they initially brought cloud rap to Europe in 2013. And for the last segment, I want to talk about contemporary artists that regularly blend cloud rap with other genres and therefore are relevant for the current evolution of cloud rap. First of all, we have the Shed Theory collective, especially Marlon Dubois and Joey, who blend cloud rap with ambient or plug music. Then we have Illusion, Ghost Mountain and Cemetery, who mix cloud rap together with Witch House and occasionally with Chicago Drill. Next to that there's Clara Lassan, a British singer who mixes cloud rap together with R&B. And then we have Einine Bonsai, Jekuya and Zayako, who blend cloud rap with digicore. Furthermore, I want to mention Arab Music, IV Oxygen and Rave 9, who make cloud rap X EDM style music, also known as wave. And if you want to learn more about the cloud rap X EDM fusion, check out my video about electronic music's traces in internet era rap. Other than that, there's Destroy Lonely, whose ambient trap songs for sure have a lot of cloud rap influences, which is especially visible on the tape Broken Hearts 2 and the EP Lord. And last but not least, we have Forever United, who created the subgenre Ice Drill, which basically is cloud rap fused together with UK drill, a very interesting combination in my opinion, for sure go check it out. With that, we covered all the artists I wanted to talk about, so as a conclusion, the demand for cloud rap music skyrocketed again in comparison to a couple of years ago, and many modern cloud rap artists are gaining a lot of traction. And by bringing the ethereal elements of cloud rap into the forefront, the contemporary underground artists are evolving the genre by combining it with modern production and pioneering cloud rap into its next phase. That's why in my opinion, cloud rap has to be considered as one of the pillars of modern hip-hop, and the genre already birthed multiple generations of rappers and internet aesthetics, which is why we currently might be another golden era for internet rap. But let me know your take on this in the comments down below. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video till the end, leave a like if you enjoyed it and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, that would help me out a lot. Cheers!